Hello, hello, and welcome back to another amazing panel for the Horrific Network's Halfway to Halloween. For those of you who caught my previous panel with David Howard Thornton, Art the Clown from Terrifier, he had mentioned that they had no clue that this movie was going to be as big as it was going to be because they were just some people shooting what they loved as cheap as possible. And that's where true horror lies. That's where true horror fans find their films that they love and hold on to forever, is those independent small films. So to celebrate that, we have some people involved in making a brand new independent small horror film. We have my amazing, I would like to say, boss, writer and director of the show and head of Horrific Network, Jimmy Weinholz. Jimmy, are you there? Jimmy!
We don't make any money doing this, so I'm not really your boss until we're millionaires. And then when you're late, I get to yell at you. Then I'm your boss.
I'll always be late. I'm going to tell you that right now. I'm just going to always be late. Jimmy, how are you, sir?
I'm doing great, man. This event, the support from this event, the feedback of the event, it has been great. And now I was telling John over in the other room, managing all the production stuff for us. There's a crew of like 5 of us that have produced 29 hours in the last 50 hours. And I am incredibly proud. And now I get to be like Kevin Smith and kick back and relax and just talk to my friends and showcase the stuff that I've been working on. And I'm beyond excited to introduce the film indie horror world to 3 actors that I think hopefully are nowhere near done with indie horror acting.
Oh, no. These 3 have got a future ahead of them, either with more projects with you, hopefully, or other people are going to get to see this and see how truly amazing these 3 performers are. And let's go ahead and bring these 3 actors from your upcoming film, and then we can all talk together about this film project. I'd like to bring on Aaron Miller, Gianna Landon, and May Mercury.
My cast. And May has Pavi there as well.
Yes.
And he is one of my generous extras who sacrificed a lot of time and got bloody for me. So I
was about to say, and possibly his body. He may have sacrificed his body for that role.
And I just want to say, with Pavi sitting next, I want to bring in too, because he's done a shitload of work for me production wise. And he is one of the killers on the film as part of Gianna's Twisted Trio.
Oh, yes.
True. As well. So,
hello. I was going to bring you on later on as a surprise with the clip, but let's just bring you on now. Why not?
Let's do it.
I've gotten to spend this entire weekend with Jimmy and Drew as far as putting together these inside looks at the horror genre and all the aspects from theme park haunts to big budget films to the building of independent horror. So, Jimmy, let's talk first about the name of this project and how this came about.
So, the name of the project is Campfire Chronicles, and it's centered around a premise that I had that was a podcast at first that was literally looking at short stories like Goosebumps or Are You Afraid of the Dark? Things that centered around telling some kind of a short story. And we debated about whether or not said story was good enough to become a haunted house at a theme park. And so that evolved into a whole channel and everything. And the show kind of still remains, but it's gotten away from that Are You Afraid of the Dark vibe. And I'm like, it'd be cool to revisit that vibe. And I'm like, well, what is the 3-act structure that is perfect? I'm like, before, during, and post coronavirus is the perfect 3-act structure for humanity for probably the next 20 to 30 years cinematically. There's gonna be movies out about this shit for decades. And I'm like, okay, so 3 pretty dope concepts. Christmas was my first choice because I love Krampus and I love anything like Black Christmas. I love, like, there was a haunted house that Halloween Horror Nights did, and the premise was that inmates, the bus crashed in a suburban neighborhood during Christmas, and so you're like going through this neighborhood and the inmates are like slaughtering, the whole white on red contrast. Like, so I knew that this was the first one I wanted to film. And then we had a house donated the property to us to pretty much say like open door. And I toured that house and went to the basement. Like for the first, 30 seconds that I looked at that place, I'm like, I can't pass. And then I got hooked up with you, and you introduced me to Aaron, Gianna, and May, and we did the first table read, and they were all like, this is a pretty dope concept. And I'm like, holy shit, they actually want to do it. And then the rest is history. I think I've told them as I'm editing the thing, film resume wise, like your newest compilation as you're interviewing for real world work. I'm like, the two scenes that we have right now to show everybody at some point are like the top two that go on the front of my reel. Like, they're incredibly talented actors.
Well, we will get to show the first of those two scenes here in a minute. But first, let me go ahead and talk to May, Gianna, and Aaron. Drew, this is for you as well, but I do know the answer to this. So for the three of you, before getting involved in this project, what were your personal histories with the horror genre? Were you fans? Were there something you wanted to get into? What is that? We'll start with May. We'll do the Brady Bunch style, go down to Gianna, then over to Aaron. So May?
Sure. So I only started getting into horror films through Tavi because he's a big horror buff, and I always thought that I was too much of a scaredy cat to actually like watch horror movies without just doing this the whole time. But I have gotten into a lot of horror because of him, and I never have done any other horror short films. I've been in a couple like college little films as an extra, but I was honestly so shocked and surprised when Jay and Jimmy were like, we think you'd be perfect for this role. And I was like, oh, I'm still learning about horror. I'm still kind of starting to fill my brain with a lot of knowledge about different horror films. So it was such a cool experience to kind of feel like a newbie, but also to be so welcomed into a horror film set.
You have no idea of how many celebrities from the horror genre that Jimmy and I have interviewed where they talk about, before I did this project that you know me most for, I never acted in a horror or even thought of acting in a horror. So you're not alone when it comes to that, May. Trust me. Gianna, what about your history with horror or your desire?
I have a similar answer to May. I don't like horror because it scares the bejesus out of me. But there's a few horror films I do really like. I've always liked slasher films. But like anything supernatural, just like too much for me, freaks me out. But then being in this film made me like, okay, well, maybe I can appreciate it more and it won't scare me as much. So I'm kind of exploring the horror film genre now. But I love it. It's fun. It's like, now that I've been behind the scenes looking at horror films, I see it in a different way now. So before, totally scared, could not pay me to come see a horror film. Now you could probably pay me to see a horror film.
Well, then I'm going to take you up on that and pay you to come over to my house and we'll watch some horror films. Aaron, what about you, sir?
Relatively similar to both of them. I'm relatively new to horror in my life. Probably only been like trying to actively watch different horror styles and films for maybe like the last 5 years, essentially since meeting you. Jay's a good friend of mine, for those who don't know. he's gotten me more into it than anybody has before. So I'm pretty new to it as well, and I've never acted in any type of film or anything like that. I've truly only done theater, so this was just an awesome opportunity that I couldn't really turn down because it just sounded just so fun. I mean, it was just something that I couldn't really say no to as an actor, as an extrovert. It just sounded like such a fun project, and it really was.
Wonderful. Now, Drew, you're playing one of Gianna's gang of killers. So I'm assuming your answer is about the same, Drew. This is your first foray. You've never met anybody in horror or anything.
Oh yeah, right, Jay. No, I've known Jimmy. What is going on? What, three? I've known all you guys for going on. Or Jimmy and Jay. I've known you guys at least three plus years now.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah,
something like that. We've known each other for a while. I've just, like, as a kid, horror movies scared the living shit out of me when I was a kid. I mean, Nightmare on Elm Street, Dream Warriors. I literally had nightmares when I was a child. And then as an adult, you grow up and you understand that horror is not what you think it is as an adult. And it really makes you think about why they're doing what they're doing as an adult, going back and watching it. And for Gianna, if you want good stuff to start on like Hitchcock. Hitchcock is a good way to ease your way into it. Exactly. Hitchcock is definitely start with Psycho, go to the birds.
I'd add Universal Monsters to that too.
Yeah, yes, Universal Hitchcock as well. Creature from the Black Lagoon.
I should probably amend then, because I do like Hitchcock. I guess I just didn't consider that like modern horror.
Horror has changed.
But but I do like me some Hitchcock.
Yeah.
Horror as a genre itself, and that's the freedom of this genre, and Jimmy knows this from writing in this genre. The freedom of this genre is very much that it's an open playground, and it can be everything from the just more psychological suspense that we begin with Alfred Hitchcock, all the way through there's a place for Art the Clown sawing people in half. So there's a broad range there.
That's the extreme, Jay. That's
I know. I'm telling you, there's a broad range there. So, Jimmy, before we show our first clip here, I want to know from you. You set up what you loved with the goosebumps and everything like that with this. Beyond all of that, when it comes down to directing, and all of your performers here got to witness firsthand the knowledge that you have of directing horror. When it comes to that, what were some of these films that influenced you, making you want to go, this is why I'm going to write and direct horror? Because I know your fandom, you love sci-fi and you love Disney. You could easily have gone into those forays as well, but you chose this genre for many reasons. What were some of those influences?
Because there's nothing, and all you have to do to use pro wrestling too, you can add to that list. So to use a pro wrestling term from the wrestlers we had on yesterday, to know that I'm a Disney mark, all you have to do is turn on any horrific podcast, because everyone rolls their eyes when I turn the conversation to Disney in some form or fashion.
He finds a way every time.
Our Star Wars.
Yep.
But there is nothing like the high of being scared. I don't care what anybody says, pixie dust, like there's nothing like being truly scared and looking at one of your friends and laughing because they're fucking scared too.
Oh yeah.
So that feeling is something that with this, I'm more of a person that the whole startle scare thing and constructing a startle scare is really interesting to me when you're actually editing film with sound and everything. Like the startle scare will always startle you, but to do it is it's almost a little bit tedious in the sense that it's like it has to be done. I would rather showcase actors that play a little bit more mentally depraved and let them play with their range. And if we tune down like the typical stuff, I would much rather watch someone just like get inside the viewer's mind, almost like a pro wrestler, like Jake the Snake Roberts, like back in the 80s. Like if he would lock eyes with you and you were in the audience, you were pretty fucked up.
Yeah.
I like that kind of horror stuff. Like I love Freddie, Michael, and everything else, but like holy smokes, this is really truly like a character that I could see actually like being terrifying, or this is a group that I could see on the street. This is this to me makes it even scarier. And so I know you just said to play the first clip. This first clip,
are we ready to give him the first tease?
Yeah. So this clip,
Yeah.
this clip is literally the short itself is centered around a brother and a sister, and they're going to a college party in a house that's vacated, and they are partying after Christmas, and they're home for the holidays for college, and it's in the heat of the pandemic, Christmas 2020. But in our world, like the ramifications are a little bit more severe. Like instead of getting a ticket, or like the media playing with like, we'll take you away, like people really are getting taken away. So they're like aware, like they need to be somewhere where they're out of the way if they're going to gather with more than 10. And so they're coming up, getting ready to meet their friends. And the brother, who is played by Aaron, says, you know what, man, like I forgot something for someone who's going to be at the party. So he has to roll up to his work parking lot and go inside and grab something. And then Jen, who is played by May, is left in the car alone, and she's bored. And she gets a couple of unusual visitors that happen to the parking lot.
All right, I'll be back in a second.
Hey, the shop isn't open. Hey, I'm sorry, but the shop isn't open. Christ. Get in here!
What's wrong with you?
There's a guy out there with a knife.
What? Where?
They were right there.
I guess I scared him away.
All right.
So there's your first kind of glimpse into like, what is Gianna's problem? Why are they just going to mess with someone for the sake of messing with them? Like, what's going on? So then the story kind of leads you down the path of what happens inside that house.
Yes. So May and Gianna and Aaron, so when it comes to that moment, so I know I'm the one who helped get you involved with this. I'm the one who said, hey, you need to meet Jemmy to be in here. But as somebody who is a theater performer, as somebody who has the chance to rehearse for months at a time in some of our cases before even attempting to play any part of any type of character, how was it shifting from that live type of performance to a in from a camera performance?
May, do you want to go first?
Sure. It was weird because I had my script. My script got like so wrecked because I was like constantly flipping through it, like at work, and like I was so nervous at first because I had only ever been an extra in the background. I'm really tall, so I'm usually like in the back, even on stage. I'm in the back in like films. I'm not ever like the main character, like front and center. And so it was a big challenge to be like, oh my God, like, can I do this? Are they sure? They're taking like a really big risk by asking me, someone who's not used to being on film, to kind of head this. So definitely nerve-wracking, but also just like so much fun. We had so much fun like pretending to kill each other and scream and, you know, like watch other people die. Like it was just amazing.
As a theater actor primarily, when you're running your show, you're going from start to finish in front of an audience. And so as that show goes on, you're in your character and you're developing with your character throughout the show. And then in film, they're like, all right, we're going to film just like the third from the last scene right now. Are you ready? And like my actor brain is like, oh God, okay, what just happened? What's going to happen? Where am I mentally? What am I doing? And it's like all this stuff. And so you really have to like zone in and you really have to know your character and know the whole story, the situation, the relationships between everybody. So that was more, I think that was the biggest challenge was I was like, oh, I don't get to just tell the whole story from start to finish, which is what we're used to. I have to like tell the story in parts completely scrambled up and hope that I can keep it together, you know? But that was the biggest challenge, but it was fun too, because who doesn't like a challenge? And so it was nice to go, oh, okay, I guess I can do that. I don't have to go from start to finish. I don't have to be like, you know, a little animated doll that starts from the beginning, goes to the end. And so that was fun. And then being around these wonderful people, all the actors, all the crew, everybody just made me feel comfortable because I was like, oh my God, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm a theater actor. And like, Aaron was like, it's okay. Neither do I. And I was like, okay, cool. So like all that stuff made me comfortable. And I really enjoyed the experience.
I got to say, before Aaron goes, that hearing you say that you guys texted that, like, I don't know if you've seen the movie Remember the Titans.
Yeah.
But there's a scene of Denzel as Coach Bombay, and he's like in the football tunnel, and he's sitting there before the game, and he's like throwing up because he's so nervous. The night before, I was dropping stuff off at the house, and I am walking around, and I'm just kind of making sure that it's as ready as it's going to be until the next day when we're like bringing in camera equipment and everything else. And I had like that, I didn't throw up, but had the Bombay moment of like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, this is not film school. Like, these actors, like, they come from like professional theater. Like, Aaron is in Jay's deal. Like, I don't want them to drive out for us to be like screwing around. Like, so to hear you be like, we don't know what we're doing. It's like each side has that other perspective. That's pretty funny to listen.
As the person who was your go-between, for lack of a better term, being I think we said that I'm going to be listed as like casting director, as the person who talked back and forth. It was funny for me to hear Jimmy say these things and then hear each of you tell me, why did you contact me for this project? Doesn't he want somebody that knows what they're doing? And I'm like, just calm down, everybody. You're all gonna be fine. Just, you guys all want to do this, and that's the key ingredient here. Aaron, you were gonna answer the differences for you.
Yeah, it's like Gianna said, you go into it with like sort of this different kind of nervousness because it's just not your forte, or it's not something you've done before. What I did a lot of times as a coping mechanism in a way was like, I would compare it to theater, and sort of these things that made me nervous for a certain reason, but then there were other things where it's like, well, there's not like 50 to 100 people staring at me while I'm acting. That's kind of nice. It almost makes me feel more like a rehearsal, even though it's live. I mean, even though it's being recorded for the film, but I kind of used that to help a little bit, and it was also like, well, if we really mess up, like after the first day, it was like, Jimmy's really cool. We'll probably just start over and just do it again. Like, we can re-roll it, and so it's like those were the only things that could like really make me feel comfortable and like, again, like what Gianna said, just the comfortability of everybody, just around everybody felt really cool. It was I didn't feel out of place, even though I felt like I didn't know what I was doing. I only felt like I just didn't know what I was doing, but I felt comfortable being that way in that area. Like, so it was a really interesting, unique experience for me, for sure.
Wonderful. Now, Jimmy, before I have a question for you right before we go to the next clip, but I do have a question first for Aaron and May, playing the brother-sister duo of this film. It's both of you have theater experience, so you both have been thrown into the production where you had to play opposite somebody that you may or may not know, and thankfully you two do know each other outside of this, so that can help with that. But as far as forming a familiar bond as an actor, especially one that needs to, without giving anything away from the script, needs to be obvious to the audience, so that way we feel what you guys feel as you go through what you're going through. How did the two of you discuss off camera? Did Jimmy work with you as far as what the brother-sister relationship, or did you just snap into place there? So we'll start with May, go to Aaron.
I mean, I felt like we pretty much just, because when Jay wanted me on the project and he told me like the role that I would be playing, he was like, I think that you and Aaron are going to be like perfect for like butting heads basically as siblings. And I was like, you know what? You're right. Because like, it just felt so easy and natural to just be like, oh, my stupid brother. Like, Aaron, like it was honestly like really natural. Like, obviously we talked a little bit about the dynamic that we wanted, but for the most part, we just kind of went for it, and it just kind of flowed, in my opinion.
Yeah, I would completely agree with that. I think it just kind of really flowed into it pretty easily, and I think throughout like in between scenes, or kind of like in between setting up another take for another scene, it'd be like a couple little jokes about like our characters or something like that. And I think all of that, along with just again the previous to this chemistry, just really helped make it a very easy transition into having chemistry with me.
Good. Jimmy, now this is your first of all, I'll start this question by saying congratulations. You just graduated film school shortly before starting this project.
Yes.
So coming from that base, this being your first project after graduating, what you said that you had your nerves of I don't know what I'm doing, but this is your first step of showing what you can do. Why was it, out of all of the things that you could have started with Campfire Chronicles, being that it's a series of stories, why did you choose, I know the house presented itself, but why did you go, yeah, this is the story I want to start filming?
I mean, it all kind of goes back to where it began with as far as the Campfire Chronicles concept of, I mean, it's an anthology film. I wanted it to be an anthology film because my thought process is that an anthology film is the easiest to film at the independent level during a pandemic, because you can take a chunk of the film and your crew of 15 is now a crew of 6, and no one's freaking out about the size of the amount of people in any certain place. And it was also, like I said, the callback to where we as a brand began. And then the fact that it is that house, when I saw it in February, it was gray skies. And I'm like, if we time it right, we can make it seem like it's Christmas time. Because if you ever read, once you get into horror movies, like, and you read about the production of them, they're never filmed or have you believe that we're at. Like,
never.
Not filmed during.
You're wearing fur coats in the summertime, pretending that it's winter in New York.
I'm like, we're pushing Valentine's time. I'm like, it doesn't matter. Like, winter is winter. Throw some Christmas stuff on the house, because that's in between. It's in between tenants, so it's like if you can get it done within a certain amount of time, you can do whatever. So I'm like, it's too good of an opportunity to not. And the other two ideas, that will kind of like say, tease at the end for the other 2/3, like hadn't even fully developed in my brain yet as we're setting all this up, because the house to me was like so much important. As soon as Jay's like, let me be casting director, I'm like, that's one thing off my plate. Like, I trust him to find, and we're working on everything else. So the everything kind of just fit in. But the real big thing with any indie film production is, I know the ladies in the roundtable, they said it best. Michelle really nailed it when she said, you're doing something yourself to alleviate the time and the cost for someone else to do it. Not just the cost of hiring them, but the fact that you're asking them to invest their time. Andrew and I used to have this conversation all the time when he was on the brand before he moved away. Like, the investment of time, like, your closest circle is always going to believe in what you're doing no matter what. Like, that's your best friends. Like, they're there just like they know you would be for them.
Well, we got a little bit of technical difficulties there on Jimmy's side.
Can you see me?
You good? Yeah,
yeah,
you broke up a bit, and then we all got spinny wheel for a second.
So the fact that, like, we are investing the time and coming out to be in something, investing the time to film something, now after school, I'm like, it needs to be like the best we've ever done. Like, in film school, we've done projects before I went to film school. We made a film that like has been seen internationally, and that is what inspired me to go to film school, to learn how to actually like construct film. Like, I had no idea what I was doing. Like, and so in making these films that you do for film school, as you get better and better, I'm like, the film we made last year, Ghost Executioner, I'm like, this is actually pretty good, and it's pretty freaking funny. Like, it would get into some film festivals. And so I knew the first thing that I would do was going to be like something on a camera that is, it's expensive, but it's not like overly expensive. It's a Sony F7. We're using LEDs. My cast, my crew, predominantly volunteer. Like, they're just excited to be attached to something. Like, independent film production is one of those things, like, make less with more. And so this was like, okay, it's within my budget to give Drew and Gianna a creepy look with less. 2020, 2021, the COVID mask is the horror mask. Like, the hockey mask is the Corona-19. Like, you have to wear this mask. And so now Jay dropped out before I introduced this clip. But
we lost Jay.
Come back.
But
Jay,
that's why Drew is in the Rona mask, and why Matthias is in the gator instead of like some creepy hockey mask. And so this scene with you guys totally like lit the way you are, Gianna, with the makeup the way that it is. I was like a very like 80s 70s type horror vibe that I wanted to create. And when you rely on others to do less with more, you're happy that you have like a cast like Aaron, Gianna, and Drew in this scene, because so this is after their party and everybody's like passed out or asleep, and some late party goers arrive on the scene that are just looking forward to spend a good time with their loved ones for the holidays.
Hey Jimmy, Jay's computer died.
Oh, okay.
He said he'll be back
Plug
in a
your
minute.
computer in, Jay.
Okay, we'll give Jay a couple minutes before we air it. Then here's Jay. Jay's back before it goes live on the air. I just like, did the whole the scene setup that we're seeing.
Oh, wonderful!
Did
Like,
you forget how to plug in the power cord, Jay?
Jay.
I'm plugged in and everything. I have no clue what's going on.
Nobody said you were the technical person.
Never.
Nope.
I
Casting
usually just
director
show up
only.
and talk.
You missed the whole damn film executive pitch. Less is more. My cast is great. Like invest. Like
To be
Jeez.
fair, I knew that part. As
Oh
long as
my
the
gosh.
audience got to see that part, that's what's important.
so. Again, this is after the house party. Everyone's
Clip.
kind of passed out or asleep, and they get some visitors to the party that they did not necessarily know were on the RSVP list.
And you haven't seen the
Door. Can I help you guys?
Sorry we're late.
Late for what?
The party.
Don't you want to let us in?
Sorry, you guys are a little late.
Oh, come on. You know what they say. There's no place like home for the holidays.
Help!
Awesome.
now
That's insane.
Jimmy has been living with this, editing this, and working on this. So when it comes to the reaction of the four of you, what do you feel watching that for the first time? Not being film actors, not knowing where that world comes from. How do you feel right now?
Oh my God. Like, okay, when Jay called me to be in this film, he was like, hey, we have this cool story and we want you. And I'm thinking like, oh, I'm going to be that little girl that dies. I mean, just so you know, my stature is not, I'm 4'11". I'm not intimidating, in my opinion. He's like, yeah, we want you to be the killer. And I was like, what? And I didn't think I could be scary, but Jesus, that was so scary. The lighting. Yeah, I'm just like shocked that I look like that.
No. Aaron?
I felt my own fear actually in that. That was pretty cool to see like that with like the real good music. Like yeah. Like I definitely obviously remember acting afraid, but I can actually like feel it in that scene with like how it was actually put together, and that's really really cool.
Yeah. Drew, how about you, sir?
So, you know, I had a different take on how I became attached to this film.
Yes.
But it's great because Jimmy messaged me one day out of the week. He's like, hey, I got a perfect role for you. I need you to stand there and look menacing. And I was like, I can do that. Let's do it.
Perfect.
So, and I
Nailed
was
it.
only taking direction from everybody else in here. I was like, I don't know, dude, did I look creepy enough? They're like, oh, no, you look creepy. And then seeing that, I definitely look creepy as shit.
Yeah.
Yes, you do.
Yeah, as a collective, it was like, oh.
Yeah.
Now,
Aaron's sleepy stumble to the door like felt so real. And that poor guy, I'm like, oh my God, those scary people. That was awesome.
yes. No, I absolutely love it. Jimmy, when you're going through the filming process and you get to the point of editing and you've got what you think is a completed scene, and these are the scenes that you talked about earlier these are going to the top of my reel. As the person who wrote this, as the person who were like, I need to find the right people for this, but you have no clue coming out of film school that you are going to get people that can do this. How does that feel at the end of that moment, getting to now live? You've shown it sneak preview to some of us, but this is live for the world to see now. We all got to see 2 clips now from your show. How does that feel?
So I'm going to tie it into Star Wars.
It was that or Disney.
It wouldn't be
was
you
that
if
or
you didn't,
Disney.
Jimmy. It wouldn't be you if you didn't. Now I am the master.
So
Tie away, sir.
So Rogue One, there's the whole scene at the very end where they're running the tape to Leia, and they're like, what happened? Like, Vader just freaking torched like all those people. Like, what's so important that like we're taking right now? and there's a shot of her and she says hope. The thing that is like our little CD-ROM is like, and I'm not commenting, I'm not saying shit about shit, but they're behind the scenes, especially this weekend, showing some people some stuff. There's a lot of encouraging things. And that's the thing that like and it's actually a nice segue. So like we said, this is a 3-way dance as far as your content. Really, even in some form or fashion, there's the 4-way, because the fourth is the group of narrators that kind of glue the 3 different scary stories together. But the scary story, so the teaser poster for Aaron, Gianna, and May's story within the story is called I Won't Be Home for the Holidays. And so that's what that looks like.
There we are.
Because we do intend down the line to shop them as shorts and then do the feature as they're all telling the stories within the story. The next film that we are close to actually moving into like full pre-production, done some location scouting, all that good stuff, that my wife and I were having the conversation of how much time are we about to invest, and I'm like, we should get it done before 4th of July, because then we have family obligational stuff, and so it's kind of like that planner type of a thing. It's very much like we talked about the different styles. This one I think is going to be cool, playing around in this guy's kind of vibe.
Yes.
Like super in his vibe. And it is about an archaeologist who finds an artifact in a foreign country. And he literally like is kind of doing like that whole on a cliffside with his assistant. And he's like, I can't imagine ever being allowed to not be out in this wide open space. And then boom, we must lock down. You must not cross international borders. You must not leave the house, like blah, 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 blah. And so it's like a adventure thing with that style. And then it slowly just kind of ticks into like an internal slip into this dude, like obviously always has to have an adventure for another reason. And he goes insane in the beginning of the pandemic. And that is called The Cursed. And so that is the teaser poster for that little mini story that's coming out really soon. And then this fall, what was a student film that we tried to shoot in the middle of my student schooling, knowing that it was a super dope idea. And then looking back on the footage, I'm like, no, that's wrong. Like, we can't release this. Like, we just got to wait and do it right. Is our post, what would be the post lockdown, and that is centered around really by this time, 2021 Halloween. Like everything should really be calm, and so that is the story that our group of narrators tell as far as what's centered around the exit to what has been a crazy time, and that story is about a Halloween haunted house attraction, and that features Higby Horror Haunt, which you are actually going to see on the live podcast coming up at 4, and then you will see John's reveal at 5, where they talk about their actual haunted houses they're producing this year. But we're going to shoot this thing in their haunt, so that's like the house situation with the Christmas haunt, when you get like this perfect set design presented to you, ready to go, pretty much. In John's
take it, yeah.
The haunted house is like always looking good. You find something that definitely like you can collaborate together, be like, yes, I think that this is actually a dope idea for the film for us, for the haunted house, and it's a dope film for you, and you come together and you're like, absolutely. And so this is the poster for that. That'll be as kind of the tail end of the feature, and then on its own eventually, the house. So
I like it.
All that stuff to look forward to, that still you're getting with the clips from I Won't Be Home with the Holidays as part of the feature. So
yeah,
the feature will be hopefully like ready to actually like premiere by the end of the year.
Well, we are going to definitely look forward to the red carpet for everybody. And maybe we'll have to do a live podcast from your premiere and not have to have you work it at all, Jimmy. You just go and schmooze and drink your champagne. How's that?
Depending on if the theaters remain as cool as they are, we're thinking about like renting a theater and then doing like a live like premiere like podcast. Like, cross your fingers that like everything kind of like happens. But
right,
we are working on some kind of something.
Wonderful. I know before we let you guys go, because of the fact that we are running up on time here, I know normally Jimmy's backstage and he's typing in there going, hey, you got a 3-minute warning. I have no warning. I have to do it all on my own, and I don't know how well I can tell time anymore. So before we move on,
you got a 5-minute warning, Jay. 5 minutes.
Thank you. Thank you, 5. So May, Gianna, and Aaron, you guys all spoke about being theater actors moving into this world of film and doing something completely different. I want you to know that there's been this ongoing theme throughout all of various panels that I've hosted, but specifically this weekend as well. Some of the biggest names in horror currently: Brooke Lewis Bellis, David Howard Thornton, Felissa Rose, whose birthday it is today. Happy birthday, Felissa Rose, friend of Horrific Network. So all of these icons in horror all had a moment at one point in time in their career where they were like, yeah, but I'm just a theater actor. I don't know how to do film. And guess what? They are now, this many years later, producing films, directing films, still starring and showing up at Horrific Network's live events, being interviewed. So beyond being my own personal friends and me adoring the three of you, I can't wait to, at another event like this and another con, get to interview one or all three of you for Jimmy's project here, because I think your acting chops are top notch and are going to be moving the three of you forward. So Jimmy is getting the chance to showcase that. I am so happy that you got involved.
Thanks, man. Thank you.
Us too.
I 100% agree. You guys, again, when you guys see this in a larger scale, you watching this, we'll be showing you teasers throughout the year as we go on. But these three right here are special. I can tell you, Gianna, every time in between takes, they were like, Gianna's actually kind of fucking badass. Like, she knows how to like do fight choreography and stuff. And so that film that we mentioned, The Cursed, it does have like a couple like tussles. And so she is gonna come help out with that kind of stuff. So I'm excited to be able to say that. The thing with an anthology film too is you have the option of playing the same group of people in multiple different parts, like American Horror Story, or you keep them like segregated. And in this feature package, we are going, I can like say, for the most part, there may be like Easter eggy stuff. For the most part, we're going to keep them separate, just so you can kind of see how humanity was before, during, after a shitty time. So yeah, I
can't wait to see it on the big screen with all of you. That is going to be amazing. Jimmy, I cannot wait for more future projects, and this is I can tell you right now from all the work that I've done over the years, this is just the beginning for you. I cannot wait to see what more happens with not only these projects, but future projects as well. Real quick, everybody knows how to get a hold of Jimmy or I. People can reach out to Horrific Network to get a hold of Drew. May, Gianna, and Aaron, if you guys would like to shout out social medias or any way that people might want to follow you in case they're local and want to see you in a show at some point in time once the world opens up more, or maybe see about you getting thrown into other film roles. May?
My Facebook is under May Mercury. It is private, but if you like send me a message that like, hey, I saw you on this and I want to follow you, then just DM me and on Facebook, and that's probably the best way.
Awesome. Gianna?
I'm going to say the same thing as May. I'm Gianna Landon on Facebook. Again, mine is private as well. But if you send me a message and you're not some weirdo, like, you know, who's just
remember their level of weirdo is certainly high because they have friends with me.
Okay, let me clarify. If you're like a horror film weirdo, like go ahead and message me. That's fine.
Yeah, that's good.
But same thing, send me a message and we can talk.
All right. Aaron?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter or Instagram at AA1242. Easy on both of them.
Wonderful. And Drew, do you want to shout anything out while we've got you here before we go away?
Not only can you catch me on Campfire Chronicles with Jimmy, but
only.
I also,
Not only.
Yeah.
Also,
I am not just a one-man show. I'm unfortunately a three-man show. I have just recently started my own podcast called Snack and Flick, where we just talk. You can follow us on Facebook, all the social medias on Snack and Flick, and then I'm also on another one called The Daywalkers, where we talk about video games and anime. So you can catch me there as well. That's Snack and Flick is Monday. Campfire Chronicles is Tuesday with Jimmy, and then Wednesday is the Daywalkers.
Just keep working, man.
Good.
I'm running ragged. I've got Monday, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and then I've got all the meetings in between. It's crazy. Oh, and I just want to say one thing before we leave, Jimmy. If you need me on another movie, don't hesitate to ask.
I can promise you'll see everyone in the panel here from something that we do. It's just kind of hard when something happens to a certain character to have that.
Not to spoil anything.
But
as Jimmy would put, these are not the spoilers you're looking for.
Hey, as you like this, it's a good thing they didn't see my face. See, it's okay.
That's true. All right. So don't forget to stick around. Higby Horror Hunt is up next, correct, Jimmy?
We have one live, like just special podcast coming up next. Misfits Unmanaged.
Oh, yes, wonderful.
Up where they dropped out. So we're going to record a live episode, coincidentally, of the podcast that the film is stemmed off of, Campfire Chronicles. So if you're a fan of the Halloween franchise, the whole haunt industry certainly loves the Halloween franchise, but there's certain what some would call shitty movies in that franchise they haven't touched with. I'm going to convince everyone that what you think is the shittiest would actually make the dopest haunted house. If you've heard my Jason X arguments, you're going to love Jimmy Does Halloween Resurrection at 4 o'clock. And then at 5, John's going to reveal, his haunted house whole slate or theme. He's giving a hell of a teaser. I don't know. He has a whole package prepared. I'm excited to see it. So
he's been sweating on it. Yeah, I can't wait. All right. So thank you very much, May, Gianna, Aaron, Drew, and Jimmy for joining the Horrific Network's Halfway to Halloween. Stick around. We've got to finish up this weekend strong. Goodbye.
Bye.